What's going on, everybody? This is Black Men Sundays. I'm your host, Corey Sylvester Murray, and we're talking about generational wealth, mental health, finance, and business.
It's a black man Sunday. Time to put all childish things away. I refuse to be the man I was yesterday. Gotta put my best foot forward and elevate.
And today, before we introduce our guest, we must let you know we're about to start the third annual Black Men Sundays Turkey Drive, where we feed the kids of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida. Remember last year we fed 455 children. Let's take it up a notch this year. Now let's go on to introduce today's guest. We're talking about business. We're talking with Neil Twa, CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings. We're going to find out what that is. He's also the author of Almost Automated Income with FBA. So without further ado, Neil Twa, welcome to Black Men Sundays, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Too blessed to be stressed. So I appreciate you having me on the show.
I got you. Now, before we get started, there's some words that we need to really understand on this show. So,
Okay.
like I said, you're the author of Almost Automated Income with FBA. Let's find what's FBA.
Yeah, in simple terms, it's called Fulfilled by Amazon. It's the system by which you and probably others on this show, many of you, get products delivered to your house, maybe once a day or 10 times a week if you're my wife. That's just the systems of plane, trains, and automobiles, warehouses, and ships that takes a product from online orders and brings it to your house. It handles your returns, handles other things of that nature. It's a big machine. It's a miracle the thing even works. Amazon bought the logistics company that did that in 2009-ish or so when they started to move from their own book shipping into larger automations to move the mission forward of selling all things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And so they bought that company and turned it into what we now today call FBA, which is stuff delivered to your house all the time in 2 days or less, right?
Great information. I just wanted to clear that up because once we dive into this conversation, I hate for my listeners to get lost in the conversation. So every
We'll
now
break
and
it.
then I'll have a show where we'll, digest some vocabulary first. So I'm glad we took care of that. So let's
Man,
jump
I'm
right
just a
in.
simple country guy, so we'll keep it down to earth here. Uh, we'll keep it real, no worries.
I got you. So yeah, man. So doing my research on you, I see you're the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings. Now, the way I understand it is you basically acquire and you're the manager of third-party FBA brands. So the way I look at it is, in simple terms, you basically acquire businesses at their peak performance. Am I
Yeah.
correct with that, or
That is
what's up?
correct. Yeah, we build them, we discover, we build, we optimize, and we exit. Right. So from beginning to end, I've got three brand launches underway right now. Another three that are coming in as we're pushing into fourth quarter with new brand launches against new brands. We have established brands that we've grown up and been running for the last 12 years. And then we also look to work with individuals, aspiring entrepreneurs, and business builders who want to learn how to do what we do so that in 5 years or less, I can acquire their brand away from them through a mission-based private equity company called Patriot Growth Capital, which I'm an operator in. And that is a veteran-backed, veteran-focused, veteran-financed initiative to acquire those companies. We just went through our first acquisition. We got paper done on this past week. We're flying out to meet the rest of the team here in a couple weeks and just to control that business. And super excited about that first acquisition in this formulation. So those who work with me get an opportunity to exit with us under our first right of refusal later on, which just basically means they don't sell their company publicly until I have a chance to take a look at it first.
That's great information. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs listen to the show, a lot of CEOs listen to the show, a lot of small business entrepreneurs that are just starting their business and they're under a year listen to the show, and the established entrepreneurs listen to our show.
Excellent.
So, and we've had guests on the show that come on and talk about building Amazon businesses.
Sure.
But from your point of view, what I want to understand is if I'm someone, because my wife has a few items on Amazon. So, how do you build a profitable Amazon business these days?
First off, you recognize that Amazon is just a first sales channel of a multi-channel opportunity you have as a business owner to expand out revenue generating opportunities through additional channels, like whatever that is, a platform, a sales channel, some other place which sales can reach customers. That as a sales channel, it is a great place for us to incubate products out to 49% of all e-commerce sales in America, which is done through Amazon. and that people are simply there as a psychology of a buyer to buy things. They're not there to be disrupted. They're not watching Facebook, cat memes. They're not watching videos on YouTube. We're not interrupting anything they're doing. They came to that platform to purchase. It's their sole intent for being there. And for that reason, we can quickly establish an incubated brand trust through that channel before we multi-channel it, right? So one of the biggest differences I think we need to understand here in e-commerce is that there is, in my world, no such thing as an Amazon FBA business. There's an Amazon FBA sales channel. There is a DTC, channel, which is a direct-to-consumer channel of some kind, retail outlets, a website, whatever. Then there is, social media demand creation platforms like TikTok, where you can get videos and influencers to create demand while also, getting sales for your business. But you need at least 2 to 3 of those at least before you have what we consider to be a holistic e-commerce company. Okay. And with that, you increase the valuation of the company, which increases the opportunity for that generational wealth. The difference between a single cell business of Amazon with a single channel could be 2 to 3 times the profit of the business when you sell it, okay, what you actually get to keep from the business. But it can go from up to 5 to 15 times when you omni-channel the business. So I want everybody to really understand a true business building experience in ecom is a holistic omni-channel business, not just a single channel. So the growth of that channel really gets down to your alignment with customer demand, customer need, and customer intent. This is something that really has changed, Corey, in the last 5 years. And it's a 2-letter word that's changing it. You probably heard of it. It's called AI, right? And with these AI systems and their ability to move data so much faster than we can comprehend through intelligence that is disseminating every millisecond to traffic and intent of that traffic, Amazon and other systems have adopted a lot of that technology from all of the decades of information they've stored that these AI systems are chewing on now. Now, I'm no expert, but in IBM, when I used to work there back in the day, and I left in 2007 and fired the man, we were working on latent semantic engines for machine language learning out of Armonk in New York at the big Watson Superblue computer, Deep Blue. And on that, we were looking at the amount of information it took to create these knowledge management systems to disseminate information just in time to an audience that was craving it so fast. Keep in mind, that was 25 years ago. The foundations by which that has changed and grown are astronomical. And I don't think everybody's fully grasped where they fit themselves into this equation yet, or how it impacts them, or what it means for them. For our business model, it has become a critical component of moving product to market faster, analyzing the data and success of that product, and has really turned the idea that we need to invent products away from innovation and has switched it around to we're data brokering to AI engines that deliver physical products to the customer. So it's really the opposite effect of what a lot of people think you might do in a physical product business. You have to go invent something and do this, super invention thing, be Elon Musk or whatever, or you'll never sell a product, or you never even sell millions of dollars of that product. And that's actually just a myth. 99% of e-com business building is defining a market, finding out who they are, getting the data for what they're already buying, what does that customer need, and simply giving them a product data set that fulfills that need that happens to be fulfilled by a product that gets shipped and delivered in 2 days after that. So we have to balance these really, important things. I do build a great product. In fact, I had a really cool product. You like ice cream by chance? Who doesn't like ice cream, I guess?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. One, my wife doesn't, but I do.
Okay, so some people, okay. So she just doesn't have the right kind of ice cream yet, huh? Okay, so we're selling a product we just launched called the Blizzy, which is a desktop, countertop ice cream maker that doesn't require pre-freezing. You literally pour in the mixture in less than 30 minutes, you pull the handle, and out pops out your favorite soft serve. And it is actually on fire. We just hit our first $1,000 profit day on Friday. That was 2 weeks after we launched the product. It is an innovative product in the market, but it's not the first one to the market. We've just created an opportunity through our branding and material to go out and present a product opportunity and innovation to the market they haven't seen. And guess what? They're swallowing it like crazy. We've got 5-star reviews and people are absolutely loving the product.
Yeah, because I have a product similar to that, but it does the smoothies instead of the ice cream.
We have a slushy coming as well. The Blizzy
Gotcha.
slushy, which will do just the slushy side. We just launched the gelato ice cream sorbet maker first. And then the slushy side of that's coming next. Yeah, so Again, meet that demand where that customer need is, and that's where I think a lot of people miss the opportunity. We call it not marrying your product. Like, do not marry the product. What do we actually marry? We marry the brand. Just like you're married to brand, I'm married to different brands. We're all married to some kind of brand. I could probably start a fight if I say all iPhones are, fanboys and all Android people suck, right? Because people are so brand driven, they want to like duke it out, right? But in the end, it's the products that enable the brand, but the brand lives on forever. So we don't marry our products. We establish a baseline of data that determines whether or not a product has a longevity in its launch or life cycle process. And then we continue to put more and more products into that brand. And if the product is not serving the needs of the brand, it's called the sunk cost fallacy, then that product will sell out and a new product will replace it inside of the brand, but the brand can live on forever. Most people get married to their product, and that's one of the big failure points for e-commerce.
I just love the fact that you guys acquire businesses at their peak performances. So, what are you guys looking at? Like, let's say there's a listener, hey, I have a business. I may be interested. Like, what factors,
Yeah.
do you guys look at and what type of numbers are needed from a
Yeah.
minimal perspective?
Absolutely. So the factors of a business we look at in the minimal financial aspect of it kind of goes like this. It must be a holistic e-com company. It must have multiple channels, even if the secondary and tertiary channels, second and third channels, are not making up more than 5 to 10% currently of the market. But the primary channel may be 70, 80% of the market right now or more. We're okay with that as long as it has a stable market share that we can open up through those additional channels. We can bring in resources and money, and we can open up the additional channels and watch it maybe double in the next 3 to 5 years. So we look at the business, and it must be a US based company. We don't prefer companies outside the US. We don't like companies with heavy operations. We run extremely lean. I have no employees. My operators are all business builders who now work with Voltage on profit sharing in the individual companies that we run. We have 12 of them. And these people, have four operators that split that up. So I'm looking for high performers always. Those who are, doing it, working it, not just employed by us to do it. And that means the companies themselves, if I see that in the company that's being acquired, it matches the Voltage profile. It matches a cultural index, if you will. So that we don't have to wonder, is this person going to sort of fit in with the group? We see them already operating that by proxy, by who they are and how they're running the company. And that's an incentive for us with that business. So it has to have that multi-channel organic. It has to have market share and upside. It must have at least more than 6% customer acquisition growth each year already in its growth cycle to see it trending upwards. We don't like turnarounds. We don't like business near turnarounds, right? What we want to do is add gas to good fire. So we're looking a little bit for, those kinds of opportunities. Typically, the financial side to your question is going to be minimum 1.5 million in EBITDA or net profits per year. Seller discretionary earnings are preferred. That just means that the seller that took out money for themselves or other aspects of the business is put back into the profits, and we see that true number true itself up in the finances. That's called seller discretionary earnings and a minimum in 1.5 million. We would prefer to see businesses that actually have 3 to 5 million. They're kind of harder to find. Take a little bit longer to get there. We took about 700 businesses into evaluation to find this first one. There's just so much data, so many people who are kind of like, can I sell my business? Is it worth anything? There are people who are faking the numbers. This business we saw the other day is like, hey, we're doing 15 million and 2.7 million in profit. And we got into the accounting and the financials, and turns out they were faking the numbers, right? They were just trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. And so we have to go through a serious due diligence process on that part of the business. I circumvent a lot of that process because in the team that I have, which is super amazing. This is not just me. I get to be the leader and co-founder of an amazing group of people and not be the smartest guy, and I get to be the dumbest guy in the room now, which is okay by me. Is a group that I know I trust implicitly to come up with the answers to these questions and go through this process, and it's taken quite a long time to identify who could be trusted and how it goes through that process to finding these kinds of businesses. And then I raise up those who I think have an aptitude to do it. And as they raise their company up and they build their company as an owner, and we consult with them and spend 12 months, one-on-one helping them build their company as a part of Voltage. What we do then is give them, first right of refusal later on when that company hits 3 to 5 years and hits the metrics of the buy box. I already know where they went. I already know how they got there. I already know who they are and how they had their aptitude to raise up. And if they are wanting to sell that company within 5 years to us, we have a conversation about it. I've got two of those we're discussing right now, and we closed an acquisition on one about 2 weeks ago.
But let's take it back, man. Let's talk about your beginnings and how you were able to even get to the level that you are today?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to hear the story. My dad was a multimillionaire and he gave me $500,000 and I went off and did all these great things. The truth is, my dad's 83. I'll be 84 in March next year. Lives on the hill just up from us here. Hardworking, honest to goodness dude. He taught me about what it means to be a man, crawl under cars, get dirty, and a hard day's work. He dropped out of school to go when he was 17 to drive truck, and then went into the Navy and did two tours in the Navy, both of them on a destroyer back and back in Vietnam. He was just a guy who didn't know a lot about finances and money. He knew about hard work, about putting things down, and that was kind of the life he taught me, which was amazing. But we had enough to just uh, get by and the things we needed. I got his first house on a GI Bill for $50,000 that we spent all my years as a kid fixing up, and became a nice little home. My mom stayed with us, and we had just enough. But money in our house was a four-letter word. You don't say money, you don't talk about money, you don't ask for money. It's disrespectful to dad. So we never spoke about those things in our house. We had what we had, and if we needed more, we needed to figure it out. So I started hustling lawns when I was about 12. I got about 5 or 6 lawns in the cul-de-sac that we were in. They were willing to pay me, I forget, somewhere like $10, $15 per yard, and I would go out every week and mow those yards so I could have some cash. That cash I could use whenever I was allowed to borrow dad's truck when he wasn't using it or whatever. I was able to then buy some gas money so I could go hang out and do the things I wanted to do. So I just learned, the starting blocks of the value of hard work, but I didn't understand trading time for money. I didn't really understand building a business. I did not understand finances or credit, money management, fiscal money management. We didn't talk about it in our house at all. And that set me up for a very difficult life of learning how to deal with money, how to deal with money as a tool, how to see it as a tool, how to think about life abundantly and not in scarcity, because we lived in a limited scarcity belief mindset our entire lives. Both of my parents were there, and by the grace of God, that was an amazing thing to have, that strength and witness. They're still together all these years, which is amazing. But I just didn't have any, I had a desire to go beyond the work. And I always saw that in myself. Maybe it's just naturally who I am. And I always wanted to keep pushing the boundaries. And so I just kept going. And I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Like, the boundary I wanted to push was how fast could I go? So I wanted to go to the military. I didn't study for anything else to get scholarships or anything, or go to college. That was not my path. I wasn't even sure I was going to pay for it anyways. I didn't have the money. And so at the end, it was like, I'm going to go to the Air Force. And I got into the training program and immediately flunked out, because it turns out at 6'5" and most of my height is my waist up, when you put the helmet on, the F-16E cockpit would not close. And so therefore I was disqualified right out of the gate. So my last semester of my senior year, I had grades that were just good enough to apply for some scholarships. I had some music skills, which got me some scholarships and some work scholarships. And so I took the first place that gave me a nearly full ride music scholarship to a little liberal arts college out in the middle of Iowa. And I went. So I traveled from Oregon, where I grew up, and my parents were at originally, and I went to Iowa, went to school. I flunked out the first year, applied to get back in, didn't really want to be there, so I didn't know what to do. Didn't really want a music scholarship degree. That was just how I got there, because I didn't know what else to do. And so what ended up happening is, by the time I got to my second and third year, I kind of found my way a little bit into business and technology, and then the internet happened, right? The internet came online. 94, 95, they were setting up computers, email. I know I'm telling you the way back story, so you can cut me off anytime you want. But that was coming online, and I was fascinated by it. We were getting computers. No one knew how to do it. I switched my work study from administration down to the new computer lab, and they hired me down there. So I went to work there setting up those computers and playing with the dip switches and networking. I mean, just learning how to operate the machines, because no one how to do it, and knew how to do it. And so a year later, I became like the senior tech down there, because I had the most experience on how to do the whole thing, and I was helping the professor set it up, and I was starting to kind of find my way through it. And really, academia at that point had not caught up. There was no marketing, there was no technology degree, there was no network, there was nothing around the internet to support it. So I'm like, what am I doing here? So I transferred to a larger university in Missouri State to go do a computer science degree, because I'm like, well, let's go follow computer science. That seems logical, right? Spent about 4 months in the computer science degree. There was an adjunct professor who was working at a place called Sprint in Kansas City, which was a long distance telephone company at that point. He says, I'm making $60 an hour as a programmer. I just come over here and teach a couple courses. They, pay me a couple bucks to drive out here and teach the courses. And I said, well, I want to do what you do. And he looked me straight in the eye, and I'm so glad that he did. And he said, well, then you can't stay here, because you're never going to learn it here. And I'm like, wow, that was bold. So I quit. What I did is I went and got a consulting degree and started to help a little company as a consultant inside of banks and networking, and started teaching myself programming for internet which led me to Sprint as a contractor on the job there, making 25 bucks an hour by the time I was 18, 19 at this point. And then by my 20th year, Sprint had actually launched what was called the mobile division of PCS, Personal Communication Services. If y'all are old enough to know what that is, that was the first mobile phone. Okay. First mobile phone, right? And so in 2000, I was on the small team where I was 19, being told 20 by that point. Here's your team of 4 people. You're going to handle all the internal web pages and tech for this. Here's 2,500 reps. Here's the business. I'm the 5,000th badged employee. Figure out how to store all this information and use it so that we can answer, phone calls and figure out how to support the mobile industry. And that rose in the 5 years that I was there to a team of about 12 people. And there was 25,000 reps and 80,000 employees. So I got to watch a hyper growth situation of not just the internet, but the mobile technology. That led me to IBM. IBM hired me out and said, hey, come take a look at what we're doing. We'd love to see you do more of what you did there for us. So I got hired out to IBM. No degree, just experience and a tenacity to keep pushing the veil and see what would happen. And had some really great life experience there. But again, I didn't, maybe I said this already, but I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in college. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So that dream had never been realized, nor is it ever going to be realized. But the end result was the not wanting to be there because I never wanted to be there meant that I was always using that as a way to get to the next step. I didn't look for a corporate career. I wasn't trying to do all that. I was simply using that as a bridge to get paid and learn and be in the place where the tech was until I could figure out what to do. So I had a little side hustle game server company called Killer Game Servers, where back in the day before you had all of it intertwined into the mobile apps and communications and technologies, you had the ability to multiplay but no ability to talk to each other at the same time. So I set up a server. I programmed what's called an audio codec, and that allowed the multiplayers to talk one to many to each other. And at one point, I had like 20,000 players on my servers every night talking to each other while they were doing multiplayer gaming. And I would get on and spend till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then go up to work. I was playing games. There was no Twitch, no Freebie, no YouTube, no whatever, but I was gaming on under zero density and I was winning the leaderboards. I was winning we were playing Call of Duty and Counter-Strike and was really crushing it on that and winning money and winning people to my business. And then my uncle, who was my mentor, who was somebody who was in business, who started a boat company, who was really driven in life. He was, by Robert Kiyosaki's definition, my rich dad. Have you ever read? Okay. So he ended up sort of being my rich dad. He understood business, he understood finances, and he understood these things. And we had these long conversations, which I tell you still today, man, they come back to me. And the things that he said then I didn't get. Today, I'm still getting some of that realization of what he led and mentored in me. He died in an ultralight aircraft incident in 2005, and it kind of set my brain into a tailspin for about 2 years, realizing I had kicked enough rocks. He had always encouraged me, get out, do your own thing, buy a franchise, do something. Like you know you need to do this. You've always wanted to do it. What I didn't realize what he was telling me was, if you do this, I'm going to help you. I just need to see you take the first step, right? Sure, it turns out he died before I took the first step. In 2007, when IBM said, hey, what do you want to do with your life? I said, I want an early retirement. I don't want to continue this work. They said, hey, we were going to send you to Argentina anyway. So if you just want out, we'll give you an early retirement. And I'm just like, I'm done. I'm out. Let's go. Got married that same year in 2007 to my wife in March. I was going from IBM in June, started my business. And we found out we were pregnant in October with our first baby that year. And then she was put on bed rest by December. So we were out of income. So we were the first dinks with no children who went from high income to no kids down to no income and a new job and a business and a new life. But so much had changed during that time frame, and I was so determined to do this. I burned, the boats, as the saying goes. I didn't burn the bridges, which turned out to be a very smart thing for me, and just set off into my own business and ended up doing a series of online and offline companies. Some were very successful, some failed miserably, and one went bankrupt because of it, and then landed on physical products about 13 years ago. Because I was in the digital space, and I'm like, man, I want to see the digital connect with physical somehow, because my brain was just wired that way. I wasn't just into pure digital everything, although it was super cool. I had grown up in the physical side of it with the machines, and so I wanted to see some component of digital. And plus, I had come to realize that real business connects both of those things together. Like, you connect all of that. And for me, I really wasn't playing the world of business owner. I was playing the world of entrepreneur. So when I actually landed on my first product and hit my first 7-figure product-based business in 2015, that's when everything clicked. That's when it all became a significant reality between the connections I had to the marketing and online and the physical products attached to a brand that serve a customer's need. serve a solution, serve an outcome, and get them to be very passionate about it. And I just became passionate about that myself. And so we just launched every kind of product we could launch under the sun after that through a methodology that we created called our Greenlight process. And that was the answer to the question, what the heck, to sell and do it as quickly as possible, to do it profitably on the Amazon by maintaining, we've adjusted that. We can talk about that, but we've adjusted that over time. And then take these algorithmic engines, some of my back experience, and say, what can I do to bring that forward? And so I spent many years looking through documentation, reading, adapting, and testing the algorithmic engines that Amazon had until I discovered kind of the way they were learning and programming their engine and the similarities that we had programmed into the ones we developed in the IBM years, and realizing there was a systematic data approach to product launches, and we formulated that first product launch process, developed it into our game plan, and then put our green light process, which is literally green, yellow, or red products go, no go in the data, and have become very successful in that process by simply just reading the data, letting the data tell me what products to launch, and then we just line those products up and test market launches and let the data tell me which one's the most successful, and then plow all the capital and time, energy, and attention we can into that product until it goes to 8 figures in 5 years.
It doesn't seem like you're not quite like a lot of the guests that we have. Like your story is very interesting in terms of and very varied in terms of your background and even in terms of the business that you're in right now. So it's very interesting. First question I'd like to ask you is probably going to be a little off. Um, what I'd like to ask you is so you were telling us your background and everything and how you made the decision to launch a business and immediately went into a situation where you had a bunch of money and then you didn't have any money, but you had a family and kids. How instrumental was it like to have I guess to have strong communication with your wife, and be
Mm.
able to lean on her support in terms of building that business out?
Great, great question. Thank you for catching the nuance in that detail. Let me answer it this way. There's a framework that I've come to live by, and part of that framework answers your question, if I might. And that framework is what I call the five F's. And one of them is probably not the one you think it is. The first one is faith, right? Faith to go out above and beyond what you feel the world is holding you back to do, but you know you have a greater calling to do. And the first faith measure for me, is the first kingdom of Jesus Christ, foremost and center. And without that, I would have never got out of the boat. Okay, people want to know what it takes to get into a business, and I will tell you, without faith, you will fail. None of my most successful friends, who are some of them are 1,000 times more successful than me, have ever got there without their faith. It's just that simple. And those who don't have faith question everything. They question it by their own moral compass. They have no standards by which they guard their life, their purpose, and their value. They are pure profit, and at a pure profit play, you will only succumb to the opportunities of pure profit. And who's waiting on the other side of that? Usually bad things that look good to sway you away from that. And how do I know that? Well, I fell into that trap. I'm speaking from personal experience, man. I fell into the guy who went after the profit, who was all about himself, all about his career and where he was going. I got married at a young age. I skipped that part because it's personal, but I'll tell it to you because you asked the question. I got married when I was 20. And when I was 20 and trying to go after that career and having that success and the growth of that new startup company, I kind of left my wife behind. I kind of didn't care what she thought about what I was doing. I cared that she thought that I was being successful and that I was providing and being a good husband, but I was doing it at the expense of communication and desire, and we sort of separated. Turns out we probably should have never got together at first, but that's okay, we did. But in the end, we sort of were growing apart. There's either two ways about it. You grow together or you grow apart. And in this case, we were growing apart. So by year 6, actually year 5, we ended up in kind of a nasty divorce. When that came down, that literal 1 year of divorce it took me to get divorced, some really challenging things faced my reality. And one was how I perceived people, and especially how I perceived communication with my wife as a husband. What was a husband? How was I supposed to be? When I got through that process and then fast forwarded years and years later, I came to realize, my problem in that relationship, how I caused it to not be an opportunity for anything that I ever would have done in the future, and how that person really wasn't the best fit for my future opportunities, as it turned out. When I met my wife now, who we've been together for 18 years, she was a very different person in that way. Her faith was stronger than mine. And with that, she knew that to look up and to not look out to the things of the world to satisfy who she was as a woman. So with that, she didn't need me to be this gung-ho provider. She didn't need me to be the one that had all the answers. She just needed to be the one that was the rock. I was the one that would do it. I was the one that would give up. I was the one that would put myself last before my family. I'd get the things but after everybody else got it, or I got none at all. She wanted to see that that was the person I was. And when we got married and fell in love and went through this thing, when the time came to leave the company, and it's like, hey, I can't stay here. She's like, that's okay. We'll figure it out. Right? She never criticized those challenges all the way through some very bad financial decisions later on, which would lead to a bankruptcy, which would lead me to screenshotting an Arvest account one day after having all this money to invest in companies and all this success, only to find out we had nothing anymore. We didn't own the car they repoed at 10 o'clock one night with my pregnant wife standing there crying as they took the car with all the car seats out. And with $567 in our Arvis bank account, which I hold on a screenshot that stays on every phone I've ever transferred as a reminder of humility of how fast you can gain and lose, okay, when you make stupid decisions. Okay. And she understood those difficulties and she said, look, if we have to sell the house, we sell the house. If we need to get rid of the cars, we get rid of the cars. As long as we're going to stay together as a family, that's all that matters. So you ask how much does it matter? It is everything. It is now the number two thing I tell my four daughters. I have four daughters, by the way. Number one, control the controllables. I tried to control things that I could not foresee controlling. I believed I had to control the destiny and the guarantee of the outcomes, and in actuality, that was a lack of faith. So my attempt to control those simply put my humanity in place, and I failed.
Mm,
Right? You see that? And the second one was who you marry is the biggest decision you will ever make. When it's success personally or in business, it is this is the big, I tell my daughters this over and over again. It is the biggest decision you will ever make. Be very smart. Take your time. Your ride or die partner needs to see that it isn't about you, it's about you together as a connection against the world. Not you against the world, not her against the world, but us against the world. And the only way to do that is to put God at the top of your pinnacle. That's why faith is at the top. Then you have family, then you have friends, then you have finances, and then you get your freedom. Those are the five F's. They cannot be out of order. You get them out of order, and you will subvert purpose and value over profit. And when you do that, everyone else gets kicked to the curb. Right? Am I answering your question?
man, you're doing a lot more than answering my question. You're preaching the whole sermon here.
Okay. Well, it's my
But
testimony, but at the end of the day, brother, it is really gets down to the fact that she never gave up on me. She never criticized when she was 8 months pregnant. Okay, we were a month from due. We're down in the Tulsa courthouse in a danky bottom, blinky light thing, like looks like Joel versus the volcano down there, right? And there's 20 poor other souls crying their heart out, right, as they're going bankrupt into this, what became a room full of folding chairs and judges. This wasn't no glorified, judge thing. You went into a hole in the basement and talked to some guy behind a flat table who pulled up a file of your entire life and got to judge you in 5 minutes. Sucks, right? And but by that, the grace of God was there, and He did something He didn't have to do. He looked at us. We had a plan. We'd already started paying off the debts that we owed. We were already reconciling the things we needed to do, which is why I didn't have any money. And so He looked at us and He said, "You need a break, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was thinking He was maybe going to do a little something for us. Like He's like, "Here, I'm going to give you this little something." And in that moment, everything changed. That was our turning point. That's when He wiped out our debt. With a
mm,
stroke of a pen, He wiped out the debt.
mm,
And He said, you got a clean slate. So I walked out with no money in my bank account, and no debt, and no credit cards, and just a tenacity and perseverance to do it better and to think about it better and to invert the purpose. And so the purpose became my family. The purpose became my wife and children's success, my staying there as a provider and being with them no matter what I did, and to build an idea or a business in a position that would serve that first so that I could put my faith first, and in that way I could serve my family and then be somewhere in the back getting what I need because that's what men are supposed to do. And at the end of that, this is the position that I've been given. Yeah,
awesome.
all glory to God for that.
All glory to God. Amen. Hallelujah. I will. I'll touch and agree with you on that right there. Man, I'm gonna ask you just one more question.
Ask away, man.
We go. We got. First of all, I appreciate the vulnerability you had with us because that. I mean, that's a deeply personal story you told us, your testimony, and I really appreciate the vulnerability you had with us to answer that question here on the podcast. So I want to say that first and foremost. And I just want to keep in that vein because the other thing I picked up on was you talked about a scarcity mindset versus an abundance
Yeah.
mindset. So how do you move from one to the other? How do you move from the scarcity mindset? First of all, what is the general idea of a scarcity
Hmm.
mindset, and how does that hold you back? And then how do you move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset?
Yeah, the toughest part is recognizing if you're in it or not. What's the
Mhm.
litmus test for being in it? If you look at your bank account and say, that's all I have, so I can't do these things, you're in a scarcity mindset. If you look at your bank account, instead you say, what do I need to do to earn additional income to make that difference occur? You're thinking abundantly. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep.
Okay. So we always look through the lens of what we have. It's very difficult to look at the lens of what we could have. And it's not even just the monetary aspect. Remember, that's down on the list. That's number four. When we look at that purpose and drive, we're like, what can I actually do to serve someone else in what I'm doing in that capacity? Okay. Whether anybody else hears this today or not, we're serving each other here by coming into agreement on these things. And hopefully somebody who's listening to this that will not have heard it in this way. And together they will all come into agreement with us. That's purpose out of this, right? And so when you look at these things through life, you start to see that the world is abundance. You've heard of the trillions of dollars laying around, right? You know there's money everywhere. You see the billionaires and you see the money, you see the businesses and success. You hear what I'm talking about. You know it exists. Why doesn't it exist for me? There's a gap usually between your ability to get there, your willingness to get there, and the will of God allowing you to get there because you may not be in God's will in the way that you're going, and therefore, no matter how many times you beat your head on that, it isn't going to happen.
Hmm.
Okay. And what you're going to receive is not good things from that. So to think abundantly is to realize abundance in all things. Everything is abundant. It just means that right now it may not be near you.
Right.
I knew there was money out there. I saw the millions of dollars in investment. I knew these companies. I knew these people had this money. It just wasn't in my bank account at the moment. It wasn't near me. But I knew it existed and fundamentally believed that it existed. There's actually a story about this one time about a guy sitting on a bench in New York City. And he's sitting there and he's just minding his own business. And this old man comes over and sits next to him on the bench, starts mumbling about these kinds of things or whatever, telling his life story and stuff. And he ends up talking to this old man. He's saying, "Yeah, man, my business is doing terrible. The sales aren't going great. I don't know what to do, how to fix it," and goes on. So the old man looks over and he says, "You know what? I can help you with that." Pulls out his checkbook and writes him $100,000 check. Says, "Here, this is a gift for you to help you with your business." The guy's like, "What? Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah, just come back to this bench a year from now and tell me how you did with the money." So the guy goes off, puts the money away, realizes that if he spends the money, he'll lose it. So he's not trying to just hoard it, but he's trying to figure out what to do with it. And in the process of figuring out what to do with it, all of a sudden it enables his mind to think, well, if this doesn't work, I still have $100,000. I'm like, okay. If I don't try this or make that phone call, that's okay. I still have $100,000. So what he does is he goes to work under the pretense that he has a fallback. Okay. He has $100,000 in fallback. So at that point, his business starts to turn around, his life turns around, the engagement, his money turns around. By the time he gets back to the bench a year later, he doesn't need the $100,000. So he brings the check back and he plans to hand it to the old guy. So he goes back to the bench, he sits down, the old guy turns around, comes over to him and says, "Hey, how's it going?" The guy's like, "Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened. My year has been so insane. This is so great." And he believes that the guy looks down finally at the check he never did before and it says Rockefeller on the check. He's like, "What? This is a Rockefeller?" So the old man's like, "Yeah, you don't need to give me the check back." And about 30 seconds later, this nurse walks over and goes, "Hey, Mr. Smith, come on, Mr. Smith, we need to get you back to the home." So the guy realizes all of a sudden that's not Mr. Rockefeller. That wasn't a $100,000 check. He just believed that he could do differently. He thought differently. That's it. So how do we get there? Every 3 feet. Every 3 feet you walk forward, like climbing your Everest, is a 3 feet you can look back and see how far you've come. Everybody wants to go 6 feet and 12 feet, but then they run out of oxygen too quickly. Okay. And then usually you need to stop every 3 feet to make sure that the person behind you is also doing okay and that you're not running over the person in front of you. So who is it really about, right? It's really not about you, right? Every 3 feet you look and see where you went. Pretty soon you look up and you've gone a mile. Okay, before you recognize it, you look, and you might recognize that as like going through the week and realizing it's already Sunday again. What happened to the last week, right? Because things can move extremely fast. Years go by extremely quick. And when I tell people it takes 3 to 5 years minimum to do what people are not willing to do so you can live like no one else can, that's E-Myth. Okay, it's a great book. You should check it out. Then you realize that is not a long time frame, right? In the time frame that 3 to 4 years have gone down in Amazon alone, There were 50 new $100 million companies originated on Amazon that went to 100 million in 4 years.
Wow.
Okay. Since Amazon started in 2009 with the open third party fulfillment, what we were talking about a minute ago, and allowing third party sellers to come on, it took that long to get 50 $100 million companies originated on Amazon. And it only took 4 years to do it again.
Wow.
This speed and exponential abundance of things that are growing, the monetary system that's rising, the things that are changing around us are creating opportunities that most people are simply just not anticipating, understanding. They're seeing it from a consumer, not a producer aspect. To change that abundance is to see, I need to be a producer. I need to stop being a consumer. And that's one of the biggest factors of taking that first 3 foot step.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Good stuff, man. Well, I'm asking you the hard question now, Neil, man. You enjoying
Oh,
yourself on Black Men Sundays?
no, I want off this ride. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course. I'm loving it. It's great conversation, good banter, and I appreciate you allowing me to share some thoughts.
Yeah, definitely, man. And before I let you get out of here, I do have to ask you these two questions.
Okay.
Obviously, like I said, you're the author of Almost Automated Income with FBA. For people interested, obviously, we know it's on Amazon. So
Starts on Amazon.
there we go. There we
Hmm.
go. And before I let you get out of here, man, I do want to know some steps to launch private label brands on
Yeah,
e-commerce platforms.
let's
Like,
go
because
tactical.
I hear that all the time. I have a product. I want to launch something. I saw this little girl put her product in a Walmart, and how do I get mine?
That's great, man. That's abundant thinking. That's a great start. So to practically address that, let's get tactical, okay? Do not sell a product on Amazon for less than $20. Friends do not, we have a saying around here, friends do not let friends sell $20 products on Amazon, okay? When the numbers of Amazon fees, price, cost of goods, that's how much it costs you to get the product after shipping, logistics, and paying taxes, paying for yourself, any softwares and things you have to accumulate to the business for a line item, okay, a debit, you will not make it profitable on $3 in profit per unit. $4, $5, no. We have a minimum net profit of more than $12 in net profit per unit on our products. We are typically going to be shooting for products that have $50 to $150 in net profit in them, just to be very clear. It is just as easy, and this is where the abundance kicks in. This is just as easy to sell a $350 product as it is a $50 product. You hear me when I'm saying this? Because your brain thinks it's not. Okay. Do you ever see a Lamborghini advertisement? You think they're selling plenty of Lamborghinis? Yeah. Okay. What it gets down to is understanding those barriers of limitation in your mind that are not met by the market. They're simply limited by your current situation. So you think it's not possible. So you start with the idea, well, if I can't sell a $30 product, then no one else is going to buy a $50 product from me. And that's actually wrong. If I can't sell the 50 because I can't afford the 50, then, well, someone's not going to buy a $150 version of that. And you're probably wrong. Amazon's order value, it's called an average order value per customer, average order value, AOV, is $69. What does that tell you? If you average the difference between that, you're going to find very quickly you need to sell products that are between $50 and $150 in retail price point, or you will not even be near Amazon's average order value. The average Prime member on Amazon spends $1,800 a year. So Amazon's customer lifetime value, which is a metric all businesses should understand, whether you're a lead, a consultant, or whatever, what's your customer lifetime value? When I acquire that customer, how long do they stay with me and how much money do they spend with my company? With Amazon, it's $1,800 per person. Okay. So when I take those numbers and I look at the business, I would say, I'm not going to launch a product that would not lead to products or variations by which a customer who buys my first product could not buy up to $1,800 in additional product from me in 1 year. So, what does that tell me? I either need to sell them an $1,800 product one time. You see where I'm going with this? All right. Or 10 products down, or to 100 products, or 1,000 products. So, if I know that that is the metric by which the entire system is running, do I look at it and say, well, I can't do that. I'm out. The whole thing's a failure. It all sucks. Amazon sucks. Nothing works. Or do I look at it and say, I now know what the metrics are. I need to know how to get in there and figure out how to achieve those. Because if that's what the system needs to sell its products and customers to people, and that's what I want to do to make money, well, then I need to get in line with what it's doing. And I see so many people bucking that simple truth right there. Well, if that's the case, then I'm out. Like, I don't want anything. I got to go find something simpler to do. Okay, fine. That's cool, man. But when you do this right and you have enough net profit to run your business, the biggest important thing is not running it on gut feel, okay? Is identifying products in a conditional statement by which you see the products existing in everyday life. And since we are all consumers, you can look at the last 90 or 180 days of products in your own Amazon account, find out what you've bought between $50 and $150 and start making a list. You're typically going to find that it's products that are female oriented because they are 80% of the online buying group. Ta-da! Sorry, folks. It's not us. We are bigger buyers and decision makers with bigger toys. You know where I'm going with this, boys. And so when the bigger decisions come, we typically make it, as a spouse or driven by, our leadership role, or whether we do it as our spouse or, significant other. But the rest of the transactions, the other 80%, all come from our wives, significant others, and those who are usually feminine in persuasion. And they're typically 27 to 40-year-old women. Okay. So if I know that, am I going to launch male-oriented brands? No, I'm not, because that's not where the biggest demographic of people is buying. I'm gonna launch, and this is funny because I'm speaking as a guy, but guess what? All my designers and graphics people, guess what? They're all female. My illustrators, my technical writers, such and such and such, right? So it doesn't mean I have to understand every part of it, even though I live in a house with 5 women. I think I understand a little more than most guys do. But at the same time, I have to see that sound group and I have to understand where that opportunity lies. So as I'm conditioning these products, I need to be thinking about the women in my life that buy those kinds of products. And it might be that it's my wife, it might be that it's my aunt or my sister-in-law, and be like, oh, well, that's, Laura, and she loves to do this cooking and she likes this thing, and here's the way she treats her kids, and here's her preferred products, and here's what she doesn't like. And I start to build a picture in my mind of a person, of an avatar named Laura. And why would she like this product? Is it going to make her go faster or jump bigger? Is it going to help her kids, do this? Is it going to help her family do that? Is it going to help her cook bigger here? And then you start to realize that every product type I'm about to name matches up with that. Have you ever heard of the crock pot? Remember Grandma's crock pot? We were all afraid she's going to burn her house down and Grandma's going to die and we're going to come back and she's in a crispy burnt rocking chair in her house because, oh my God, it's right. The crock pot burned Grandma to the ground. We always knew this was going to happen one day. And the firefighter's like, oh my God, that thing is horrible. So you realize that crock pots were just one method of a product. Now what do we have? Instapots. Instapot was literally not your grandma's crock pot. That's it. It has features and functions that make it a little safer. It can be on the countertop. It provides a hot meal. It was geared towards women 27 to 40 who are in the working class, and they simply tapped into that narrative with an innovative product that is not your grandma's crock pot, and it sells $1 billion a year. Okay? That wasn't rocket science. It doesn't float. It doesn't cook the meal for you. Well, it sort of does if you do it right. It, doesn't chop the food up. There we go. But it has that great thing. So now what are we on to? We're on to air fryers. What are air fryers? They're just an innovation of another kitchen countertop cooking device that can create hot and good, even healthy meals for families 2 to 4 or 6 in size. They can eat well, eat quickly, eat together as a family around the table. See where I'm going with this? And have that quality time that they're all missing because the ladies are out, working a job and doing things and trying to think about their kids all the time because that's what they do. So when we invented these products and we go through these conditions, we need to be looking for products that meet those kinds of criteria, meet those kinds of needs. And guys, there are thousands of them out there. There are thousands of them, right? And as we look at the data and the products that go out, we just need to stay relevant to the numbers I mentioned a minute ago. We need to look at products that have a retail price point that after estimated cost of goods and services of the product, that it has a minimum of $12 in net profit. If it does not, it is simply not going to pencil in. So skip it. That's why you're going to be finding retail price points of $50 to $100 because you need to pay yourself. You need to pay the business. You need to have the taxes paid. You need to invest in more inventory. You need to grow the business through marketing, and you can't do that without profits. So it's extremely important we understand, and we don't run it by gut feel. We always want to run the business as a non-personalized entity. It needs to be an LLC-based business. You need to set up the right taxation and framework of accounting in your business. We need to grow that business from itself independently of our personal finances. A lot of people commingle those. That's a recipe for disaster. You need to set the business up right from the very beginning so it is worth something in the end, right? So when we do real business building, this is not side hustle or hobby business building. When you run the numbers, you need to do them correctly in the business separate of your finances. If you give personal money to the business, it's owner equity. And then that equity translates into the business. The business becomes an entity registered as an EIN, an electronic serial number, and it is its own entity, its own person. That is what the culmination of it is. It's like a social security number for a business is its own person. So it goes out and gets its own credit, separate from you, gets its own credit cards, gets its own line of credit, has its own going concern, and becomes an entity that grows and builds separately of your personal finances, and then you employ yourself in that business so that it pays you as a part of the business. But none of that will happen without profits. That's what we're getting down to. So as we look at the products and we go to market with those products I told you about, or any type of product you could sell at this point, we sell everything from coffee makers to ice cream machines to battery chargers to sheets to literally, I will sell anything to grandma, anything to anybody. I'll sell Fuzzy Buddy slippers to grandma if she's willing to tote those things around the nursing home and tell everybody how much she loves them because she's super happy with it. She loves them. They're comfy, and we had a good deal, and we all made a happy win. I'm happy with that, right? So I'm not in love with any particular product type. So one of the things people have to do to business is die to the idea that their idea must supersede the success of the business. Hear what I'm saying? Their idea must supersede the success of the business. That is vanity and pride, and you will crash and burn in this business of any kind, frankly, if you do that. Ask me how I know. So when we build these companies, we build them with a servitude and a heart of servitude, meaning I will provide the product, I will fix the product, I will get a great product. I want you to love it, open it, keep it, use it, tell your friends about it, write positive reviews. You have to build a great product. But it starts by making sure that we figure out what that product is. And I'm not smart enough to tell the whole market what it is. That's the thing I figured out in 12 years of getting products to the market and teaching 1,000 people. I'm not smart enough to tell the market what it wants. I'm not Elon Musk. I have a super cool invention that I'm a patent holder on that no one's ever going to hear about. Right? It's a super cool idea that no one's ever going to hear about. All it does is feed my vanity. But it also caused me to go bankrupt because I focused way too hard on the idea of the product and its value over the ability of the market to purchase it. So we have a saying, sales fixes everything. Hear me when I say this. Sales fixes everything. If you don't sell something to somebody, you will go broke. Okay? Ethics, integrity, and morality are just something I'm going to kick in behind that so that you don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Don't take advantage of somebody and profiteer off of their goodwill, but sell something to someone. That is the biggest thing you have to be not afraid to do. And so many people are afraid to do that. That means we will test the market with products until we figure out what the market wants from us. We have our 5x5 methodology. That means we're going to launch 5 products in a test run. And each of these 5 products has a slight variation difference, and we're going to find out what does the market want from us. I got 80% confidence it's going to sell. I know there's a market demand. I know it's profitable because I did the numbers. I know there's a good potentiality it'll become a Pepsi to that Coke. But I only know 80% of that with confidence because I haven't sold it yet. So when I take it to the market and I say, hey, Mr. Market, tell me what you think. I'm asking for a very, 20% return to get 100% clarity if the market wants that product variation, size, shape, price point, brand value from me, and then wants to take more and more of it. And as it's data driven, I put those 5 products in, cream of the crop rises to the top. 1 or 2 of those products will start to supersede organic search volume and sales of the product, and I will simply follow the data. It doesn't mean I didn't do a great job on the other ones. It means I may need to optimize them because maybe I didn't get the image, copy graphics. I didn't really speak to the audience correctly. They weren't interested at that point in buying it from me because my price might be a little bit off. I tweak those things, right? And if I can tweak them in and one of them pops up and be like, hey, there's a third one. Great. Now I have 3 products that I know are ready for a product launch. I didn't guess. The market told me these are the 3 things we're interested in from you. Then I'm going to go get 1,000 units of each one of those products. I'm going to package this thing into a real product launch, and I'm going to go back to the market with the confidence knowing I can sell the product because I already proved that. I know that in the larger quantities, it pencils in quarter by quarter and over a year run rate to be a profitable product selling through 4 inventory turns a year. I now know all that data. And so I put 1,000 units in there and I go to a full product launch. Even then, I'm not marrying the product. What am I doing? I'm doing the full product launch test. At that point, if I'm starting to sell through 1,000 units and it's like, hey, that's going to happen in 90 days or less, I got my banger. I don't need to change anything now but me. What do I need to change at that point? My risk to reward ratio, because now I found a product that has a huge upside potential. So what do I have to put to it now? More time, attention, and money. I have to put additional capital, marketing, and additional product into it because when that thing goes, you might find yourself getting to a place where the growth of that product inside of this engine can be so fast that we've seen it go from 50 to 300,000 a month in 90 days. Once you tap into that, once you meet the metrics of the system and it's like, hey, we love you, you're converting, the customers love you, the reviews are good, you have to feed the beast. That's what we call it. You have to feed that beast, which means I need more inventory. And it's not me telling my clients usually, hey, I think you should get some more inventory. The numbers scream, capitalize the product. This is your opportunity. This is going to be your hero brand. When that occurs, you now have an opportunity to expand what was the first product into 10, 20, 50, 100 SKUs, right? Like Nike sells only shoes. We will now sell every variation, size, shape, type of that product possible. When we lock into that brand, we will go deep across the board into every vertical type of that product possible. We don't go try to launch a whole different product. We just launch every variation of that product we can think of, come up with. The market bears and new things we can come up with until we widen that thing out. So what do I end up with? I end up with a seller account in a business with a single brand, okay, servicing a single avatar, entirely focused from brand through seller all the way down, that is just selling product to that customer base. That's it. That 1 million, 5 million, 15 million people a year that are looking for that product, that's all I'm focused on. And then I do it again in another brand and product type. And then we do it in another one. We just keep repeating that process. It's a data-driven process. And it's these systems like Amazon, which is just a big filing cabinet. It's a big digital filing cabinet of information ran by algorithms, right? TikTok's the same way. The online web is now the same way. All social medias are the same way, okay? Amazon just happens to move physical product, right? TikTok actually moves information that is by proxy also moving product, right? But most of the other systems are moving the information. So once I do that, I realize that there are millions of page ones for these products. There's millions of scalable opportunity. And here's how fast this can go. I actually have a client who just went under a contract to sell his business in 5 years for, get this, $29 million, right? He raised that company up to more than 15 million a year. Kudos to him. He followed the strategy, followed the process, did what he needed to do, dedicated the capital, went and got more capital that was necessary to grow it. And now he's setting on generational wealth because he was willing to take the risk others were not. Not everybody is like that. But he's actually not my biggest case study. Matt Harvard is my biggest case study. It's on my website. You guys can check it out. He went to 5 million a month in 8 months. The systems are so large that most people still cannot abundantly comprehend the amount of traffic moving every millisecond. Did you know on Amazon it's 6,000 units a minute? 6,000 units a minute of physical products are moving through that system, 9,000 to 10,000 a minute during peak holiday times. It's a miracle the freaking thing even works. So when I talk about the almost automated income, last point, the affect of building these companies is to build the brand that grows and adopts people into it who want to find the products that service their need because it service someone else's need. That's creating the upside potential of a company that's not just brand driven, but it has an intrinsic value to it for the growth of expanding that brand into more and more households and more names. It goes beyond the product because the product has a life cycle. All products have a life cycle, okay? Some products are shorter than others, some can go longer, some need to be reinvented a little bit or tweaked just a little bit in order to change with the market. Doesn't mean they're dead, you just have to retweak them a little bit in order for them to see the next level of longevity. So we don't marry those products because we know the entire brand lives on forever. Like you can't name every Lamborghini, but how long has that brand been around? You probably can't tell me what Lucky Strikes version there are, even though you know Lucky Strikes is a brand, even though you probably never smoked one in your life, or maybe you did. But the point is, yeah, ugh, brands go on, right? The products will have a life cycle. And so if we understand that about a business has an inherent growth cycle. We are curators and managers of it for a certain time. And then we need to not let our pride and arrogance hang on to it. We need to let our opportunity for that to grow, change. And as we sell it on the upside, since we're building it from the beginning with the end in mind, we need to consider that as our opportunity, right? Why? We call it the platinum principle. That is building the business with the end in mind is the business plan. They are worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. If I'm building that brick by brick asset that becomes a house, that becomes a saleable asset to someone in 5 years, I have appreciated, okay, the inventory, the money, the business, and the intrinsic value. I've depreciated other things in that process so I can lower my tax rates as it comes out. And after 5 years, I can exit that business for generational wealth. And I can put all that money back into the business of building more companies. Why? Have you ever seen the study between the difference between average Joes, millionaires, decamillionaires, and billionaires and where they keep their assets and capitalization? Have you guys discussed that on here at all?
Yeah, we've discussed it a couple times. Yeah.
Where do the billionaires keep all their assets? In their businesses, right? Hardly any of them are liquid cash, right? And the reason and I'm not there, by the way, thank you very much. But the reason we don't keep so much cash on hand is we put it to work. It goes back into the business. The business supports the house and the things, Everything revolves. I don't have 401k accounts. I don't do investing, and we are in Wealth Without Wall Street, right? We have the opportunity to build and grow asset-based business models and turn those over and over and over again. So I don't let anybody control any of that. I get hit up with wealth management advisors. I'm like, no thanks, got this. Use whole life policies for capitalization and family office building, where we can put money in there from the business. That takes money back out to fund the business. Then it pays for itself. And so that office is building for my daughters now. So they will never need to borrow from any other facility ever. They can go to the Bank of Troyes and get whatever they need in the future, because that creates opportunities for them to learn how to do the business today and grow. And as I'm doing this today and now teaching my children how to do this, I got a 13-year-old who's hustling on eBay. You can't see all the boxes and stuff she's got over here, but she's probably making 50, 100 bucks a week hustling on eBay, which is great at 13, learning how to run the business. She's buying and selling. She takes her own money now and she puts it into products and she sells the products. She keeps some profit and she puts them back in. We're always going over her numbers, right? If my 13-year-old do it, anybody else on this call can do that too, right? My 17-year-old is starting to run our media division inside our brand media campaigns and producing AI-driven videos. She's very creative. She's actually an author. She's going and working on her second published book right now. And that creativity in her brain, and she thinks a little like me. So she sees the video, she sees it, she loves the creativity, and she loves producing the video assets that we use in our marketing. So she's been trained up and is working closely and is about to be engaged with all of our clients to make brand videos. And she's doing that as a side hustle. That'll pull her in $2,000-$3,000 a month, just making AI videos for clients because she got really good at it. And she's trained herself up over the last year with me to get to that position to even have that opportunity. And for her, that's the window washing opportunity. That's the starting block. She's not coming in at anywhere above the window washer, if you will. And she'll work her way to wherever she thinks she wants to go. Ultimately, she wants to be a mom and she wants to raise up. She wants to be like mom. And this gives her the opportunity to even stay home later on and do some of this stuff if she does get married and get pregnant and whatever else. She can still do this from remote location. So that sets her up for an opportunity. But she's going to work for it, no doubt about it. She's a hard worker. And my other two daughters are young and, haven't figured out what's going on, and the 15-year-old's figuring out too. But the whole aspect is to build them into that understanding that these are the mechanisms by which they don't have to do dad's business, but they can learn the places in which they fit and make sense with their creative, their spirit, and their drive, and be a part of it, and also learn how to manage it and support it in the future, because dad's not always going to be here. And this is going to be an opportunity for them to learn how to correctly experience this and manage it for the benefit of their children's children.
My man Neil Twa, CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings, man. Thanks for coming on Black Men Sundays, man. You dropped gems. I mean, you dropped gems beyond where I wanted to go with it. And I love that, man. We learned a lot from you today. And hopefully we'll have you back on in the future, man.
I appreciate the door being open. Thank you so much for listening to me, and God bless you all. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
It's a black man's son.